Welcome back to News Talk here on News Channel 8 and our conversation this Tuesday with special guest Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. Millions of people tuned in the other night to watch the Democratic candidates for president
debate. I thought you were going to say my State of the Commonwealth speech the other night.
No doubt hundreds of thousands. Millions would be a stretch. But,
thank you. But, I think hundreds of thousands would be a stretch, too.
There was a story Sunday in the New York Times suggesting that some of the people who were advising Hillary Clinton's campaign believe that she may have waited too long. Not to say in a politically fatal sense, but that were you to rewind and have a second bite at the apple, it might have been better to engage Bernie Sanders more directly a little earlier. Do you agree with that train of thought?
No. Listen, you got a lot of armchair quarterbacks. You love all these political advisors who come out, should have done this, should have done that. She's running a great campaign. Bernie Sanders has run a great campaign. I mean, listen, we haven't had the first vote cast. It's less than 2 weeks away in Iowa. She's running her campaign. She has a very substantive agenda that she has laid out very specifically. She's got a history of getting things done, and that's what she's talked about. But, listen, you got to sell newspapers and all these political experts who are not on the ground. I just personally visited New Hampshire last weekend. I was in Iowa the weekend before. I've seen all these great, hardworking young folks out there. Let's let people vote. But, I'm very proud of the campaign that she's run.
As someone who's been in and around politics a long time, at a high level, you had the experience in 2009. 4 years later, you come back and win. How do you explain Donald Trump? Everyone, he's got undeniable skills. I mean, he was someone you would tune into and watch on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
And success in the business world, and not a surprise maybe that he caught some attention early on during the campaign. But everyone thought he would have flamed out long before now, and everyone now, as they look at his enduring success, is getting a sense that the angry voters are out there in such number that he's really. He could win this thing. He could win the Republican nomination.
I agree.
How do you explain what this moment represents for the nation?
And listen, I've known Donald Trump personally for a long time. He, in Charlottesville, Virginia, I think they have the biggest winery on the entire East Coast, run by his son Eric, and I've done events with Donald Trump there. I think he's tapped into a lot of anger that exists today. As the economy has come back, Bruce, I do think for many individuals, they don't feel that their own personal economic situation has gotten better. And there's frustration. And you've seen the polls where people say that, I don't think my children's lives will be as good as our lives was and have the same opportunities that their parents had. I think he's tapped into a lot of that frustration. As I say, I know Donald very well. I am disappointed by a lot of what I view as some of the hateful speech that has come out on the Republican side, some of the hateful speech that's come out in these Republican presidential debates. I don't think America is in decline. I'm the ultimate optimist. We're the greatest nation on earth. Can we make it better? Sure we can. But I'm just not a big believer you get ahead by tearing down your country. We're the best. Can we make it better? You bet we can. But as I mentioned earlier, Bruce, this is a global economy. I just got back from Oman and Kuwait and Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I'm over there trying to sell Virginia products. They don't, and I met with the Emir of Dubai and the Crown Prince of Kuwait. They watch all this, you understand? They sit there, they've got all their TV stations on in America. They don't understand. What is it you don't want Muslims to come to America? We're asking the Muslim communities to join us in our fight against ISIS. So the unfortunate thing of all of this is it's really ramped up a lot of the really what I find distasteful and hateful rhetoric. We have to join together. We're the greatest nation on earth. Our economy is second to none. We got to continue to grow it and do it. We've proven we can do that in Virginia. But I agree with you. I think a lot of people now have realized where originally they had discounted Donald Trump. I think it's likely today that he's probably the Republican nominee.
Ted Cruz, a lot of Republicans fear, might not only fail to capture the White House, but he could drag down the rest of the ticket. Donald Trump, could he scramble the traditional political math in a general? Because white voters, there's a theory that some white voters will be drawn to his message, and they might opt for him over whoever the Democrats put up.
Well, obviously, I think they've hurt themselves in the long term I think with the communities of color, they have found a lot of the rhetoric that has come out in these debates, as I said before, very hurtful and distasteful. The fastest growing population, voting population, of course, the Hispanic community. I can tell you clearly they do not like what has come out of these Republican primary debates. They haven't. And you look at swing states in the general election of Nevada and New Mexico and Colorado, with even Virginia, you look at our fast-growing Hispanic population. I think this is going to be a real problem electorally for them to win 270 electoral votes in the general election because of the rhetoric that has come out, as I say, that impacts the communities of color. Nobody wants to hear this hateful rhetoric that has come out. I am trying to unify Virginia. I talk about Virginia being open and welcoming to everyone. And listen, our results speak for themselves. We have a booming economy today, largest surplus in Virginia history. Almost 4 million Virginians working today, more than any time in Virginia history. I want to grow on that. I want to welcome everybody into the Commonwealth of Virginia. You want to start a business, Bruce? I want you in Virginia. Come on, open and welcoming.
You have tapped a judge from Northern Virginia for a vacancy on the Virginia Supreme Court.
Yep.
And in the last, I think, 24 hours or so, you picked up an additional vote from a Republican in the Assembly.
Yep.
Do you get Jane Roush onto the Supreme Court?
Justice Roush went through our interview process. First of all, the process that we had was very open and transparent. It was on our website. Everybody had an opportunity to communicate. And contrary to what's out, the myth that is out there today, we communicated directly with the Republican leadership during the process, asked for their recommendations if they had a recommendation, but ultimately it was my pick. I asked for their recommendations. The Republican chairman of the House Courts and Justice Committee, Republican, is the one who recommended Judge, now Justice Roush, to me. I listened to the Republicans, but ultimately it was my pick. And we went through a process, and she was by far the #1 candidate. And now here we are, much later, everybody has universally agreed that she's the best, that former Supreme Court clerks and justices who can now comment, the Bar Association, the Trial Bar Association, have universally, and unfortunately, as I say, the Republicans threw a political temper tantrum. They wanted me to cancel a special session, which I was actually under order by the United States Supreme Court to do. I have to comply with the law. I picked the best justice, and it's unfortunate. She's apolitical, that they would treat this woman this way. It really is unfortunate. So a Republican has said that they will not vote for the Republican choice that they put up to replace her, and I'm hoping let's get this over with. Let's leave her. Let's give her her 12-year term, and let's move forward. Bruce, let's focus on things that grow the economy, create jobs, build the best education system in the world, reform our high schools, invest in pre-K. Everyone watching this today, they don't even know what I'm talking about with this justice. But they want to know what their governor is doing with the legislature to create jobs and build the best education and workforce development system in America. That's what they want. They want me to be a problem solver. I'm not into problem creation. I'm into problem solving.
And with our 90 seconds left, let's talk about what might be a universal experience for the people, particularly in the part of the state where we are now. There's hardly a day that goes by that people don't sit in traffic. Can you talk about what progress has been made, in terms of the 95 corridor or 66? Lots of discussions underway right now. What's in the pipeline in terms of things that might get people moving more quickly?
Politicians like to talk. I think it's important that politicians actually do what they say they're going to do. Sitting here today on economic development and all the metrics I talked about when I ran for governor, I'm also proud to say that we are doing everything we said during the campaign to finally open up the Northern Virginia corridor and fix transportation. I've just announced 8 miles of really revolutionizing what we're going to do with the dynamic lanes to take it all the way to the district line now, up to the Pentagon exit. We're going south 2 miles because in the Garrisonville exit, it was complicated, it was causing traffic problems, taking it past that for 2 miles to fix that. On 66, for the first time, you and I have discussed this, adding lanes outside the Beltway. It is the most congested road in the most congested region. Inside the Beltway, let's be clear, nobody is paying new tolls. Unfortunately, political rhetoric and campaigns got in the way of the truth here. Nobody. All we're doing is giving a single driver today during rush hour who is prohibited from going on to 66, as you know, and has to dump off in 50 and 29, we're going to give you the option, if you want to pay, guess what? You can stay on. That's it. Choice for single drivers, everybody else. And so I'm hoping that through this General Assembly, there have been some bills proposed that say, well, no tolling. First of all, if we cannot do inside the Beltway, makes it highly unlikely we can't do anything outside the Beltway. And what the voters don't want is inaction. I am acting, I'm doing what I promised I would do, and I'm doing it in the most fiscally responsible way. I'm not playing politics with this issue. And we've laid out a plan, and people want their politicians to come with a plan and act on it.
And I know you're preparing and getting your team ready for what could be a big winter weather event in the next 72 hours or so, because we were talking about it.
Just talk to Josh. I'm still not sure exactly where we are, but we're prepared.
We're all tracking it minute by minute. We'll see what Mother Nature has in store for us. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, always great having you here. Thank you very much for your time. Talk with you again soon, I'm sure. We'll get you caught up on the hour's top stories in a moment, and an update on the forecast as well. And then why the fight for the GOP presidential nomination could last for many months to come.